All right, guys. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton Sehan, and I'm with Swiftfire True TV. I am here today with Craig Walker as we're co-hosting the show, and I'm really excited to have a couple new people here with us, Aaron and Tyler, and I'll let them go a little bit on their bios and their background. I'm super excited to jump in on this whole journey of truth. Before we get started, please go to swiftfire.org and jump on the newsletter, especially with all the weird censorship issues and what have you. At least you're going to know what's coming up and what's happening and how to reach us and find us no matter where we are. Definitely check that out, and also do your due diligence. Go ahead and share, tag, get this out. You never know what is said here that can help someone on their journey to truth and what they're figuring out in the process of all this kind of shifting, changing world that we're in. Yeah, check that out. And then also check out my book. It just came out with the audio. So you guys can find this on the website, swiftfire.org. Currently working on a workbook with it now too, so that's going to be interesting and fun. But without further ado, I'm going to let Craig share and let him introduce our new guests. Craig told me about you guys, and he's been really excited, and I'm super excited. And I was thinking that I didn't know you, and last night I was on iTunes looking to buy something, and something pops up with Journey of Truth and you guys' interview with Dan Cooper, and I saw the names and I'm like, that's the same names, I think. And I look over there, I'm like, oh, I do know these guys. I listened to that podcast before, and I remember exactly where I was when I was listening to it. It was a phenomenal. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to talk to you. This is so cool. So I'm like fangirling a little bit, and
nice.
It was like a Christmas present or in January, but because I was like, okay, yeah, I'm always open to talking to new people, but it didn't register at all. Like, you were those people, and I'm like, yay! So
that's
happy.
Awesome.
That's awesome because I'm a huge fan of you and your shows. So
yay!
It works out
there
well.
You go. Right, we're done now. I hope you enjoyed that, everybody.
Yeah.
No, like I say, I'm a huge fanboy as well. I mean, I always feel when I'm like every podcast that comes out, I can't wait for when they come out, because I go to the gym in the morning and I listen to podcasts and things. And yours is always a go-to one because you get such amazing guests. But more than that, more than the guests, I love your guys' perspectives. Carl Fairhurst has just jumped on. He's a massive fan. Can you just give him a shout out? I said I'd ask.
Carl.
What's up, Carl? How's it going?
Hey, Carl.
Welcome.
Peace, Carl. We got a lot of people jumping on here.
Yeah, people jumping on.
Shout out to the truckers.
Yeah, right. So my thinking was just like, you do a lot of interviews, but I love your guys' perspective. You guys' perspective. I love what you've got to say. And certainly with everything that's going on in the world, and with regards to disclosure, I couldn't think of anybody better to have a chat with, because when we listen to your podcast, it's like we're just like dudes hanging out. That's the vibe you give, and that's really cool. I love it. It's not like formal. It's really just like we want to know the truth, and that's the bottom line. So why don't we start? Like, I don't know, maybe Aaron, with where you come from, how your awakening, and how you came to do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having us on, by the way. It's an honor. And I watch your shows all the time, Dr. Sharnael. So it's a super honor to be on. So thank you. But so I had my awakening back in 2012, so about 10 years ago. I grew up Christian, like very Christian. That. You too? Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go. All right. Yeah. So that was my upbringing, and I was, very a devout Christian up until that point, and then I just started questioning things. I just had this kind of like light bulb go off in my head of like, how do I know these are my beliefs? How do I know this is really what I believe? And I realized it had just been things that were kind of handed to me for the most part, even though I had the spiritual connection, and I feel like it helped me establish that, which I'm grateful for. And so I knew for a fact from that connection that there was a spiritual an intelligence to the universe that I had this connection with. But I knew that a lot of the dogmas and things weren't necessarily true at that point, and I started doing my own research, and I went through Dark Night of the Soul. Suddenly my identity shattered to a million pieces. I didn't know. Yeah, I'm like, well, now who am I, and what is reality?
What's even true anymore?
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of like,
who am I?
What's kind of like, trying to find myself again and find what truth is. Just so I went on my own little personal journey to truth, and quickly came across. I just went down every rabbit hole I could, and I'm like, well, maybe ETs are real, and all these things that I kind of like shut myself off to before, and that's how I found like David Icke. I remember I would watch every video on YouTube I could of David Icke, and I was just fascinated.
Yeah.
And David Wilcock, same thing. On Project Camelot early on, just Dolores Cannon, just like I kept finding these people that were just talking about all these things that I had never really heard before or heard much about before. And I was suddenly listening intently instead of just blowing it off like I would previously, and things just started connecting, and like, suddenly it was like all these puzzle pieces coming together, and like the universe made sense and the world made sense, for almost the first time in a way. And it's been about 5 years. Had no one to talk to about any of this stuff. Like my family was still very Christian. I was in a band that was all like atheist kind of guys that would just kind of poo-poo this stuff, and I couldn't really talk to them about it. And then I went to my first conference in 2017 in Mount Shasta called Eclipse of Disclosure. It was one Corey Good and his team kind of put on. Like Laura Eisenhower was there. Michael Sala was there. Jordan Sather.
Sasha and Robert there?
No, they weren't at that one. Who else was there? Niara Isley, Roger Richards. There's a lot of people there.
Oh, cool.
That was during the big eclipse in 2017. We did a meditation during the eclipse. It was super powerful. That conference like changed my life, and I connected with people really for the first time that were on this level, and it changed my life. And then, so the sequel to that conference, they changed the name to Dimensions of Disclosure, and it was in Colorado the next year, and that's when I met Tyler at that conference. And
Aaron, real quick, I was just looking at pictures that popped up from that conference the other day, and like before I had even met you, I was taking pictures, and you're like in the background of half of my pictures.
Oh, yeah,
like, that's hilarious. I have all these pictures of him. I had no idea who he was yet.
That is so crazy.
That's amazing. I was actually looking at pictures the other day too, and from the hike that we went on. Yeah. With you and your dad. And that's when we were on that hike, we started talking. We didn't know we both lived in St. Louis. And then we're like, oh, no way. That's awesome.
That's so cool. I love it.
So we both, but we met at a conference in Colorado. So that's how we started hanging out, and that's how we started the podcast. And the rest is history.
Wow. Fantastic. Right. Taylor, what about you? Tyler, sorry, not Taylor. Tyler.
Oh, Tyler.
Same thing.
Tyler. His name's Tyler now.
Tyler, yeah, all of them. So man, if we want to go all the way back to the beginning, I did grow up in so my parents were separated before I was born, basically. So I grew up in two households, and one was very Catholic, one was very Christian, and like to the extremes at some points. But that, so I was going to church and all that stuff, but I don't know why I never took to it. I had no interest in it. It didn't feel right to me. Like I just didn't care, whatever it was. And I think it might've been because it was so pushed on me. And I was rebellious from the get-go, And so I just, as soon as when we got older, we kind of stopped going to church as much, And then when I got old enough to just go off on my own, I really wanted nothing to do with that. It didn't resonate with me. And I found myself in this group of friends who, were basically atheist. And I was like, yeah, cool. I had no idea why I resonated with these people, but it felt like it was just more of a cool thing to do to fit in with them because I liked them, And that's kind of where I found myself for a long time. And I would even like get in arguments with people about spirituality and God. Like I thought I knew what I was talking about, and eventually, it wasn't until I was 25 and my mom passed away when all that was just blown wide open for me. And I started. It started off with negative attacks, but the negative attacks led me to find spiritual tools to overcome them, and it forced me to believe in something or look into something and research something that I just didn't believe existed. But it didn't take much because it's like I already knew, or there was an aspect of me that already knew. And I quickly was just like, okay, I was an idiot and there's something to this. And I don't know why I had been shutting that side of myself down for so long. Mm-hmm. And it was a long road. At the beginning of my, after my mom passed away, it was a very dark road for me, obviously, and probably had an entity attachment or two working through me, and I found myself involved in the whole sex, drugs, and alcohol scene, and it was all necessary though to get me to where I am now. And man, like I look back and it seems like some of those times were so dark, but I don't regret any of it because it made me who I am. And I learned so much, and I learned so many different things about so many different ways and walks of life and the different people out there. And I've been through a lot of darkness, and those moments turned out to be my greatest teachers. And, it's a blessing actually, because I'm so grateful for all of that stuff. I have such like a well-rounded view on a lot of people, and I'm not so quick to judge anymore when I see people going through certain things, because I was there. I mean, I was there. I was very adventurous, and I was the type of personality. I just wanted to see where the night was going to take me. I didn't want to make any plans. I would get into a car with a stranger. I didn't care. I wanted to go and adventure, and it got me into some pretty messy situations, but it was all like training almost, if I look back on it now. And it's been pretty incredible. And Aaron explained the story of how we met, and when he approached me with the idea for a podcast, I was just like, okay, it was something I had never considered or would never probably have done on my own, definitely. And at that time I had zero expectations, and I honestly thought like it was going to go nowhere. So I was like, why not? We might as well. No one's going to watch anyway. Who cares? And first episode was basically a phone call with my dad,
Yeah.
And that's what it was, really. And I don't even know. The universe just took the wheel, and everything kind of became effortless. And I realized we were on to something, and things started feeling good, and everything was just working out. And I was like, why is this falling into our laps? Like, we don't have to force anything right now. And I started realizing that that's how you know when you're on the right track, is when everything just happens and you're not forcing anything. You don't have to. I mean, it takes work. Yeah, you can't just like you
take action, but it just flows
right.
Really. Mm-hmm.
Right, and it was just happening naturally, and it still is today. To my surprise, it's just become this well-oiled machine that's kind of working for us, and we're just keeping it going, And it's beautiful, and I love it. And the podcast has probably helped me just as much as it's helped other people, if not more, because we're going through this journey also. And if I go back to some of the older episodes and some of the things we used to talk about, I was like, man, I've grown so much since then. And you see how naive you were coming into all this, and we're growing so much, and it's just amazing. And here we are getting interviewed on shows like yours, and it's absolutely a beautiful thing, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
That was awesome. That's so beautiful, and something I needed that reminder too when things, when we started, Craig and I, it was kind of like we were already having these conversations, and so it was like, if we're having the conversations, then probably other people might be thinking the same thing or trying to work out the same things. And so we were like, let's just pop on live and talk about this real quick. And we did, and we got such a response. And then it just kind of morphed into whatever. But I totally can relate to the whole, like, this is more for me than y'all. And it's like, if y'all want to show up, great. But this is like therapy for me, and me just digging in and finding new people and connecting with other people and sorting out my own journey, because as we go, I'm looking at other people maybe we collabed with or whatever, and we're like, oh wow, like that's where I was then, and this is where I am now. And we might, there's times when I'm like, okay, I'm looking at, CDs from 2 decades ago, and I'm like, let's just throw that in the garbage. It's like that's and I'm constantly recalculating, and even being very okay and humble enough to say like, hey guys, I'm not really there anymore. This is where I am, and I may not be here in 5 minutes, but this is where I am in this like second that right now when we're talking, and I'm open to more information if I need to shift, and having those conversations, so being open to get that information from other people or other experienced people, or their experiences or history or different books. And I think it's really it's exciting in a way when you have that like no expectation on like, well, this has to be so perfect and whatever. It's just kind of like, we're gonna do this whether y'all show anyone comes or not, and we're just having fun. And I think that's what I liked about y'all show, is it felt like we were all like in a living room listening to y'all talk. And that's how we roll too. It's just like, so what do you think about this? I haven't thought about that before, blah, blah, blah. And not having to be like, we know everything and this is the way it is.
Slick and professional. Yeah.
There's no like airs of anything where it's like, I have to be super professional, or it's like you have all, you watch a lot of interviews and it's like they have all these preset questions and it's just question, and then done. And it just feels too controlled to me a lot of times. I mean, they're great with info, but like we like the more natural, like you said, we're just having a conversation, and then wherever it goes, and it can just naturally unfold, and it's relaxed, and the energy is just so much better with that. So that's exactly from the start how we kind of wanted to do the show, So.
And that's what happens naturally when two guys jump into this with zero experience, and all we knew how to do was have normal conversations.
Exactly.
And it's funny. It's funny looking back and see, because I used to get nervous, and I watched some of those episodes, and like at the very beginning, you can tell like when I'm trying to do the intros and stuff, I would get nervous. But all that's gone away because there is that programming where I need to be professional. I need to do this a certain way, and you feel like everyone's judging you and all that stuff. But all that's kind of fell to the wayside now, and it is a relaxed situation. And what the best part about it is being able to have these conversations every single week is crucial, because we all need those reminders all the time. You can hear the most important life-changing information that you've ever heard today, and then next week, are you going to remember? Are you going to apply that stuff? Are you going to take action? Are you going to really like hone in on what you heard and make those changes in your life? Probably not. People have to hear things 2 and 3, 4, 5 times before sometimes it sets in. So by having these conversations every week, it's a constant reminder of why we're doing this and why we're here. And it's not just us just having a conversation one time and then going back into the matrix and then forgetting about it, which seems to happen a lot. So I think ththose reminders are crucial.
Just to interject there, what I've found is with the global situation over the past couple of years, like the hypnotic spell is breaking. That sort of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, get hammered at the weekend routine. Everyone, like the whole world's routine has been completely broken, and it's like people have just gone, oh, what's even real anymore? Like
who am I outside of this?
It's like the Matrix has just had a glitch, and everyone's just gone, whoa, and I'm finding that people are being drawn to this kind of information, this kind of conversation. People talking about, like say extraterrestrials, are we alone in the universe? What's my life's purpose? Asking the deep questions. And we're kind of like you and us were providing a platform for people just to be honest and ask these questions and to gain inspiration and gain an activation. Because when I first heard about kind of disclosure, I wasn't seeking it at all. I mean, like I was pretty comfortable in my little Christian world. And going on, and around 2016, I just started questioning. It was just like, I can't do this anymore. Something's wrong, you know. And just asking that question, it was like a trigger for all this information. And I ended up like bumping into Gaia, like not literally.
Yep.
I mean,
me too.
TV.
Yep, Gaia was a big part.
Yeah, and just like exploring those things, like, oh my word, you know, like what was helpful for me, because like coming from a Christian background as well, is like this stuff. It wasn't discrediting Christianity. It wasn't saying it's a load of rubbish or anything like that. It was just giving a new perspective that I'd never seen before on truth. On, you know, the big one for me was because I've always been fascinated in angels, and like I'd read the Bible and it's like, where are these beings? Who are they? And all, you know, I want to see angels. I want to know who they are.
Yeah.
And then I heard the disclosure narrative with extraterrestrials, and all of a sudden it all came together. Like, you know, all these ancient sort of texts that talk about these higher dimensional beings, and I kind of put two and two together, and I realized what the disclosure people are talking about are what these people are talking about in their day and in their language.
Yep.
And that was a massive eye opener for me. So I jumped like fully into this and listened to sort of what you know, people would like you said about Corey Good, David Wilcock was a massive one for me, and then I just went down the rabbit trail and you know, I've told this publicly before, but my wife and I were camping a few years ago, and we actually had 3 UFOs show up as we were camping, and they just did like a little formation while we were there. Nice. And I thought that was just for me because I was exploring these things, you know, and like there was some sort of connection there. Because I think they want to be found, but it has to be in the right protocol. I'm discovering it's not just going to happen to anybody. Mm-hmm. Just because they're like, you know, oh, we want this. We've got to do the inner work as well, I believe.
Right. A skeptic isn't going to go out and have that experience simply because they're skeptical. You know, I mean, maybe not everybody, but you have to have the right intentions.
Yeah, exactly.
If your sole motive is just to go out and catch footage of this stuff and get them on camera and whatever,
and get Facebook likes or whatever,
right, then that's just not going to happen for you. But right now, that might happen now because they're showing up more and more worldwide, and there's all these mass sightings. So things are shifting in that area. But previously, it's more individually.
Yeah, right now it does seem like the ETs themselves are kind of helping push disclosure by showing up a lot more and getting us to be like, what is that? To question, to at least get us to the point where we're seeing things outside of our reality bubble that we're programmed with.
Well, they were weather balloons.
Start asking these questions and start being like, look, there's something happening that isn't explainable in our in the programmed reality that we've been given. So what is this? And start getting on that journey of seeking, at least, and questioning. And that's such a huge thing. So it's almost like we're at this point where we're like, we don't have the time anymore to, you know, to keep going with this matrix, because it's falling apart, and we're at the time where it's like either the matrix and the cabal and the dark is going to win, which I don't believe at all, or it's all going to fall apart, and the beautiful reality and the new earth and whatever you want to call it is quickly emerging, and disclosure, you know. So, and that's why we see all this chaos, because it's like we're at this point where the old is trying to hang on, but it's crumbling, and the new is emerging out of that, like a phoenix from the ashes kind of scenario. So, and this massive awakening is going on at the same time. You have massive programming and propaganda and pushback through the awakening and trying to dig deeper into the matrix, and it's like this chaos ensuing from all that. But that's a great thing, because honestly, here's what I tell people: like, the chaos is great. It's actually a great thing, because one, it's waking up so many people. Two, we would not be experiencing any of this stuff if the awakening and the ascension wasn't happening. It would just be business as usual, and it
would be the illusion. It would still be living the illusion.
Continual sleep inside the matrix, and you wouldn't be seeing any of this stuff happen. You wouldn't be seeing the Epstein and the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff. You wouldn't be seeing the truckers that are going on right now, the pushback to the mandates on a massive scale. You wouldn't be seeing any of this stuff if we weren't on a very positive timeline, in my opinion.
Well, and that go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that explains also a lot of the drama, for lack of a better term, and infighting that we see right now, even amongst the truther movement.
That's what I was going to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it explains a lot. Well, for one, whatever energies we're moving into and all this stuff is forcing everyone's true colors are showing right now. Yeah. And we're starting to see, everybody for who they are. And then obviously there's also the possibility that, counterintelligence is at play here and people are being used in some aspects and they don't even know it. Like it's messy. It's absolutely messy right now. Mm-hmm. And honestly, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Sorry, that's my language. But everyone, and everybody wants their narrative to be true. And then when something comes and opposes that, then you have these people taking sides and these arguments happening. Yeah. And it's
you're losing sight of what's right. Really important.
Everyone's become so reliant on the external information. They've quit trying to make the connection themselves. You don't need this person or this person or this person to tell you what's going on. You have that ability too. You have that capability to tap in, and maybe you won't get the same exact information, but you don't need all the details. You don't need all that information to know what's going on. And if anything, working on yourself is going to only amplify your bullshit meter, and you're going to be able to just look at these people without even listening to what they're saying, to know what they're saying and to know what they're about and to know what's going on there.
But that's an individual choice of whether you use your own discernment of who you want to listen to and what information you want to take in and what you want to discard. But when the second you start telling other people what information to listen to and what to not, and what person to listen to and what person to
it becomes a cult.
When you're off track, and then you're leading others to rely on believe me and not them.
Well, self-appointed expertise,
and self-appointed arbiter of truth and all that. That's a huge problem.
Yeah, and okay, so I gotta say it. So that's to me a big red flag when people are trying to position themselves to be the one who has all the information and pointing fingers at everyone else. And yes, they can be right. They might actually be correct, but I've been in that position where I've worked with people and then I don't necessarily connect with them anymore, or maybe their character is off or whatever the situation, true colors show up like you said, but I don't make a big stink about it and put it all over everywhere and like this guy blah blah blah. I mean, believe me, I could, but why? Because that is just gonna really not force people, but have the perception anyway of feeling like they need to pick a side,
right?
And like no one needs to take a side. And no one should. It reminds me of like two parents who are in a divorce, like you mentioned. It's like when I feel like the kids are in the middle, and like one, some of them are like feeling bad for dad, and some of them feeling bad for mom, and they're just like, and then the more attack comes, the more they're going to dig their heels in on their work because they got skin in the game. So it's like if this person is now wrong, but so-and-so's got 3 books about it, and so does this other person, and they're all connected to her, then that makes them wrong. When Craig and I talked about this, it was just like, you know what? Everyone's got a piece. Just because they got something wrong doesn't make everything wrong.
Exactly.
It just makes maybe this is wrong, but, like David Hawkins, he's got a scalar
awesome. He's
got his scalar wave of 100, 200, 300, 400. People use that all over for healing, for different, modalities. But he also doesn't believe in ETs. So, that to me, I do. And so I'm not going to throw out his scale because he doesn't have this piece.
Right.
That's okay.
Exactly.
So what makes me nervous and what is a big like, okay, bye-bye, when all of the things come out of like public campaigning against everything instead of just focusing on what is true for me and leave it talking about myself and whatever thing I'm going through or whatever situation I'm seeing or what ET contact I've had or my own montage
right.
issue, or instead of like, oh no, and you should also not talk to them because
so
la la la, and
you have to believe in my truth has to be everyone else's truth now.
Yeah,
it's kind of what you're saying, what people are saying.
Yeah, because if that's the case, then we're not doing anything different than what the government's doing with this big ass mind.
It's no different. It's no different than the COVID narrative. It's just it's just the same thing.
You're
and
trying
you
to draw everyone into a certain narrative and a certain, believe this and not that. Believe what I believe.
Right.
Exactly.
And the people pointing fingers when you're doing that,
it makes you look bad. It's not a good look.
Well, not only that, you're showing your true colors. You're showing your true colors. You're showing your ego. You're showing where you're at spiritually, and you're also showing that you're scared of something. Because what are you scared of? Why is this person a threat to you? What is going on within you that this person's information is so detrimental to you that you feel the need to go out and
That's exactly right.
But I was on social media last night before bed, and I was going through different groups, and every one of them was fighting. It was disgusting. Everywhere I went, it was just like the perfect timing. I don't know what's going on with the energies right now. Everything's accelerated, and it was gross, man. And people were finger pointing. Everybody's all of a sudden they're a know-it-all. Everybody's defending this person, and it's just nasty. And I went to like Facebook, and I saw the same thing on Telegram. I'm like, so I just went and like found a couple heart chakra and love memes, and I just put them all over.
I saw that. I
just put them all over the place. I'm like, this sucks. Like, this is our movement right now, but it's a necessary step, and it has to happen. And no matter who tries to come in and fix it, they can't do it, because this is the process.
People individually have to wake up and be like, oh, I've gotten off track. I'm getting caught up in who's right and who's wrong, and whose information is right and whose info is wrong. It's like none of that matters. Like you said, Sharnael, you said the perfect thing. It's like, just because someone has some info that you deem as wrong or off track doesn't mean everything they're saying is off track. So use your all that matters is to use your own discernment. Take in everything, take what resonates and what you believe and know to be true, or that resonates, and leave the rest. And there's no need to throw people under the bus and to say, oh, this person's a LARP or compromised or a fraud, and everyone needs to stop following them or whatever, or, oh, this person said this, so they're a shill or they're a LARP or whatever. And like, you see that all the time.
I don't even know what a LARP was until recently.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's important. Like, guys, we're getting off track here. This is,
it's important to recognize like whose heart is in the right place during all this, because sometimes some people are being infiltrated, compromised, hijacked. That is happening. That actually happens, and the person being used may be unaware of it. And you have to really tune in and see where their heart's at. Maybe they're being duped. Maybe they're putting out bad information. But is their heart in the right place? Do they mean harm? The people that I have a problem with are the people that I can see that are being shitty people intentionally and poking the bear and starting the fights. Like, that's,
now, if they're if they're getting you involved in something, like there is a certain person that basically started dragging us into things, and then you just got to speak your truth and be like, look, here's where
Craig,
I'm coming from. Here's what
I know Craig has some stuff to say, because we had talked about maybe getting on for like 10 minutes and even just talking about this situation. But especially if it's someone that you've been collaborating with, like in the past, like when they start showing colors, like I'm the one getting all the texts, probably you do too. And like inboxes like, well, what do you think? Which side are you on? And it's like, dude, there's misinformation, there's disinformation, there's, information. I just say go within and get your own vibe of what you feel, and like, I don't want to be in it, and I'm not picking a side. I'm going to stay neutral, and I'm just observing, and I'm just here, on this journey with everyone else. But yeah, Craig.
Well, real quick before you hop on, Craig, something important to remember is that we're all compromised. We've all been compromised from day one. The whole, what it means to be us and our existence. So we don't even, so nobody, even when they think they have the truth, you really don't, because we just don't know. And it's not fair.
No one's ever arrived at the full truth ever. that's
right.
The thing. That's why it's a journey to truth. That's the name of the show. We're constantly on this journey.
Yeah, it's not the truth as we see it.
We've never arrived. So like, you could, and that's the thing is like, basically anytime you think you have the absolute truth, you don't.
Yeah.
And that's what I see people in the community. They basically think they have the absolute truth and they've shut themselves off to anything outside of that.
Yeah.
That they think they've arrived at. And it's like,
well,
you can never, for one, you can never know that you're like, okay, I've basically got the whole truth and I don't need to look any further or question what I already think is true, because what if you come across new info or you have an experience that completely changes your perspective on that? But if you've already shut yourself off, then you're going to discard all that and you're going to be like, no, that can't be true. I've already got the truth. It's the same. It's dogma. You're in another religion, basically. It's the second.
Right. Cool.
So
that's why
you always have to understand that you're growing and you're continually on this journey of discovering the truth of yourself and the universe. And
don't marry yourself to the information, and every piece of information is a stepping stone, and that's it.
Yeah.
Stepping stone to something bigger.
Exactly. I always remember the scene in The Matrix when Neo goes to see the Oracle, and basically says, sorry, spoiler if anyone's not seen it, you're not the one. And he's like, oh, whoa, okay, all right, fine. But he was the one.
Right.
He needed that information for that time, even though it was wrong information.
It's what he needed to hear at that time.
He needed to hear that.
Precisely.
So he needed, basically, if you watch the film, when Morpheus gives himself, because the agents are coming to get him, Neo goes, no, I'm not the one. He's given himself. So then by doing that, he actually discovers he is the one by going to go and rescue Morpheus. So it's this really, really clever story.
Well, and think about if they did tell him that he was the one, it would have been different. Because then all of a sudden,
he's doing it for me. You know what I mean?
Well, then you're an ego.
Exactly.
And then you're on a pedestal and all this stuff, and this doesn't work that way.
Exactly. And I think for me, because obviously when I first started engaging, I was really impressed when I started sort of coming into this sort of community and this movement. And since I've been in it reminds me of, like you said, Aaron, it's like another religion. And having been in religious circles, I have seen so many church splits, fallouts over doctrinal beliefs and all this kind of thing. I've seen it all before, and it's happening again. And it comes from a fundamental lack of awareness of our oneness. That there is no others. We're all one. We're all the same. Mm-hmm. We all have our own perspective. And even if you have a completely different perspective to mine, I still honor your right to have that view. Exactly. And I will go my way and you can go your way. And we can still be friends and have different perspectives. And I'm like, it's almost as if it's intentional. There are characters that have come in on board and given great information that's really helped me. And then all of a sudden are going, oh, if anybody disagrees with me, then they're wrong and they're a LARP and they're lying and
they're evil. Whatever. Yeah.
And I'm like, stop.
It's not about, that's the thing. The second you get in that mode, you've completely lost track and lost sight of what's important.
Yeah.
What's important is what you just said, is love, connection, oneness.
Exactly.
And your connection to your true self, which is your soul, is the second, when you're completely engulfed in your ego, you're disconnected from your soul and you're living from this false self, essentially. Right. Is what
what's sad too is in many of these cases, at least that I'm the ones that I'm aware of, when I did, get the invitation to sort of like possibly be baited in or, like, hey, pick a side. And, I've always just been like, you know what, I'm not doing that. But I have offered to say, you know what, and I know Craig has done this too, of just saying, you know what, but since you're bringing this to me, I was just wondering, did you talk to the person about this? Have you guys had a conversation? Like, what was the conversation? How did that go? And then they're like, no, we haven't talked. I cut off communication, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, look, let's have a meeting together. Like, maybe we can all get on a 3-way call or a 4-way call, and let's just talk about some of this stuff to somehow have a healthy conversation to maybe, maybe you won't work together in the future, but it could be just like, hey, I think this, you think that, it's cool. I still love you. You're great. And maybe make a public thing saying, hey, we've just decided to go different ways, but I vote her victory and I'm sending her good vibes, and I'm going to be doing this, and this is where I'm going to go. But what I've seen so far is people are unwilling to talk, and they're using this like weird psychological, what seems to be culturally accepted of, oh, well, I'm setting my boundaries, but really boundaries is denial of actual healthy conversation. It's like they're using that as an avoidance thing instead of being an adult and a mature person and saying, and I'm not saying that everyone should always talk, and maybe there have been talks, but if you're dealing with narcissistic, abusive situations, sometimes it is the best thing to just walk away. But in my observance, and I've just had a little bit, I've seen where people are just like, nope, I'm not willing to talk, sorry, and cut off and never answer the phone and block everybody. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? But it's like, that's not anything that I thought. And it was a letdown to me to come from, where I was. And then
it means they're afraid of something. It's avoidance. Like you said the word avoidance. That's not health. That's not healthy boundaries. That means you're afraid and you're running away from dealing with something.
Right.
When you're in love, when you're in the state of love, you're not afraid of anything, and you can talk to any, doesn't mean you have to stay connected to everyone. And healthy boundaries is when you're like, this person is toxic and I'm going to step away from them because it's damaging me. Not, oh, I'm afraid of this discussion with this person, or I think I've made up my mind that they're bad or their info's bad, so I'm going to just cut off. Well, if they're toxic and you're coming from that perspective, then you're setting healthy boundaries. But if it's your ego, that's like, no, they're bad because of this info or this thing, right? That's a whole different thing.
I was just going to say, I think we need to give space for people, a safe place for people to make mistakes. People are going to get it wrong. I mean, I called President 45 smashing the last election.
We all did.
Yeah, we all did. And to be honest with you, I think he did. I think it was stolen.
He did.
Right. Yeah, it was a lie.
But I did not think this would happen. And I was saying, that will never happen. No way. And it's happened. So I went back to people and I just said, look, I got it wrong. I'm sorry, and just restored that connection, because some people really, it was a horrible time, that very, very aggressive and, very polarized. And I just think we need to give people space to be able to get it wrong and make amends, just own it and give people that place where they can say, I'm sorry, I missed it. Let's move forward,
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the big important things that Aaron mentioned, Aaron, you said this, I don't know, however long ago on one of our shows, but the biggest problem is that people are mistaking intuition, mistaking their triggers with intuition. So when somebody hears something and they get triggered, when they hear something, they get triggered, like, oh, this doesn't resonate with me. This person's lying. I'm telling you, and then they go out and warn everybody else. But really, is it their intuition telling them that, or is it a trigger?
Unhealed stuff that's getting triggered, and then you're using like the straw man of, oh, my intuition and this isn't resonating.
That's so good. That's a good point.
Right, and that's
that a lot.
Aaron, whenever you said that, like, that stuck with me. I'm like, that's so true, because I see a lot of people, that's their go-to. This person does not resonate at all, or even in our comments, doesn't resonate. This person's lying, blah, blah, blah. Nope. It's red flags. And I'm like, with what? This person, like, just listen to what they had to say. I don't understand. Like, some belief system or something is being threatened at that point.
Exactly.
And maybe they are right. Maybe this person maybe something about them is a red flag. But at the same time, like, you can't just lump them together.
Yeah. And you don't have to be mean and campaign and
people like to be mean.
Yeah.
We get the comments. We get the most cruel
Lash out.
comments sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, people just are they're know-it-alls, and it's like, you go create, your own channel success then, and
we get people attacking us for having certain people on or talking about certain talk about certain info, and then they associate us with that, and now we're bad by association, and all that.
Craig and I have had that too, where it's like, do we have this person on? Does that look like we're taking sides? It's like this fun thing. It's like,
not easy.
I'm just having a conversation. I just would like to have a lot of people come on and talk about it and discuss it. It doesn't mean I'm married to the person or the content.
Exactly.
I'm just having a conversation, but I see what you're talking about of like, immediately it looks like you're taking sides. I mean, I just canceled a big interview this week because of everything that's going on right now. And I'm like, dude, that sucks because I really like this person. And
well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because there's ways to grow your channel and operate from ego and put clickbait titles in and become huge, and go with and jump on the bandwagon and have, and go with that and have all these big names on, and like, or you can do exactly what you did, do the hard thing and just stay true to you and just keep going forward and be the voice of reason. And it's not that popular, and you're not not just going to go viral because most people don't want to hear the truth. And I'm not claiming that we have the truth at all. And I'm not saying that we're still figuring this out and learning every day, but like, I know what it would take to become huge, but that's not what this is about.
That's never what we've been about at all.
We've turned down plenty of offers to do this, and
we would have taken a lot of offers if that was our goal, actually,
all the time, and it's why are these people giving you an offer? Because they want something from you. They're going to benefit from this. This isn't just about we want to see you guys grow. It's like, okay, well, there's something in it for them too.
What's the conditions behind it?
Right. And that's how the whole system, the whole matrix operates. And we're trying to break free from that.
Yeah. Could we shift gears?
Yeah. We need to take advice from your cat back there and just relax.
Yeah. What's the cat thing?
I love your cat.
I really love you guys' perspective on the current events. And I really want to delve into that a little bit.
We just have like 10 minutes. So
yeah, I know, that's what I was thinking. Just get into it. Just basically, Aaron, because obviously I listened to your podcast, and I really share your perspective, particularly that when you talk about how everything that's going on now is as painful and as horrible as it is. It's a necessary thing to have to go through, in order for humanity's ascension and to wake up the sleepers, basically. From a higher perspective place, certainly involving extraterrestrials as well, and or angelic beings, whatever people want to call them. What do you feel about what's going on? I'm positive. I try and be positive about everything. I believe it's going to be all right. I really do. But what do you think about this?
Yeah, it's to me, it's kind of like we're at this critical point where it's like a quickening happening. So like we've been on this like steady slope of awakening and ascension, but now it's like exponential, right? So now it's like we're at this point where people are waking up rapidly en masse, but the dark, which is with the control system that's been here for so long, that's been kind of like smooth sailing for so long because they haven't had this kind of awakening or opposition to it.
Right.
And that's what I was talking about before. Like the fact that we're seeing the craziness is great, because if we weren't, that means the dark would still be smooth sailing, coasting basically, and not worrying about a thing because they've got everything under control. And most people are still fast asleep, and they're just sailing along. So the fact that we're seeing the chaos means we're at this point where mass awakening is happening, and that means the control system is crumbling and the dark is freaking out, trying to quickly construct it back together.
Yeah,
really what's happening is they plan out decades and decades and decades, if not hundreds of years into the future.
Hundreds.
Or their agenda, right? and what they want to steer humanity to further their control and to further enslave the planet, so it fits their agenda more and more and more. Well, they know their time's up, so what they're doing is they're literally throwing out everything they had planned for years into the future all at once, or what they have left that hasn't been, the white hats and the good ETs have kind of like taken away from them because it would have been too destructive and too damaging.
Eventually, they're gonna be out of ammo.
Yeah. So like the fake
that
people talk about and a lot of people are worried about, I don't think that's a possibility because that would be too traumatizing and too destructive. So I think the positive forces, I'll just say, that are helping us and have been actually helping us behind the scenes for a long time are doing everything they can to help. And it's pretty clear to me that that's what's going on. But they can't do everything for us because that would interfere with our free will and take away those lessons that we have to go through. And that's the biggest reason because then a lot of people are saying, why are they letting this happen? Why are they letting the mandates and the vaxxers and all these crazy things? Well, if they stopped it completely and did everything for us, look at what the lessons and the growth that wouldn't happen. We wouldn't go through these like trials by fire, that we need to go through. And they see the higher perspective, and they know, okay, humanity has to step into their power. So we can't do everything for them. They have to go through these hard times to awaken and step into their power. And then from that place, that's the only place you can create. We can, come together and create the reality we want to create. If we're still asleep and relying on external systems and external authorities and blah, 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 saviors to do everything for us, we're not in our power. We can't create from that place. And then we're just continuing on this destructive path of relying on external things to save us and to make our lives better. Right. That's the opposite of how it works, and that's actually, it's kind of like parents raising their kids and the parents that do everything for their kids and never let them experience anything bad at all, and they're way overbearing and overprotective. Well, what happens the second those kids grow up and get out of the house? Their lives fall apart, right?
They don't know what to do.
And they're miserable and they're depressed and they're because they've never had to rely on themselves. They don't know who they are at all. They've never stepped into their own power. Well, let's put that on a grand scale. That's humanity. That's like, and that's what the positive ETs know. We have to go through these hard times to come out as empowered as an empowered humanity. And so that's what's happening right now.
Right. Beautifully said, Aaron.
Beautiful, brilliant.
100%. And the big message for me is for everyone not to panic, because it's going to be rough.
It's going to be a while. It's going to be rough. We're going to get through it.
For every move is going to be a counter move, and it's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and it's going to be an emotional roller coaster, and it's going to be confusing, and people are going to be triggered into their healing process, and it's going to be messy. It really is. And as quickly as everybody wants to see things cleaned up, it might not happen that quickly. We don't know what it's going to look like, but don't worry about that timeline, because you can create your own reality that doesn't look like anything you see on social media or TV. And you can actually still create a beautiful reality for yourself. Obviously, it's not ideal, but we don't want to go back to the normal, because the normal was the illusion. We need to work through this and fight through this and come out on the other side in a world that we don't even recognize. In this beautiful place that we don't even recognize, where things are just where people hopefully are all operating from the heart space, and it's just that future that we all talk about. We need to create it. We really do. But by staying in fear and allowing their propaganda to keep you in fear and panic and emotionally trigger you, it's not really going to help anything with the timeline we want to create. So you have to get to a place where like these events are trigger events. They are designed to do exactly what I'm talking about. They are designed to distract you, emotionally suck you in, get you triggered, get you out doing, whatever, get you completely away from doing everything that's actually important, which is going on a path of self-discovery and finding out who you truly are, what you're actually capable of, and how you can actually make an impact right now. And it doesn't have to be what anybody else is doing. It can be your own thing.
And it should be your own thing.
Right.
Because I can't do what Tyler does or Aaron does or Craig does. We may agree on some things or disagree on some things, but we all have our unique DNA signature that radiates and connects, and we all have our own experiences that we're seeing everything through. And it's good to have people in your life because, like Craig said, there is no one else. There are no others. Everything is a mirror and a reflection, but also you can have, like, I just brought somebody in, even with what we're doing, and I had an outside person come in just to have like eyes and go, hey, did you know that this setting wasn't on public and this is whatever? And he's got some different, ideas or things, that I hadn't thought of, or maybe I kind of thought of, but I just didn't even think that was something we could do or whatever. And so we need each other. I love the diversity. I love that there's different sides, because everything is like a diamond with all these like reflections and fractures to get the whole ginormous picture. And, like, again, we see in part. So I might see something and someone else be like, oh, well, I see it like this. It doesn't make me wrong or them wrong. It just makes us see it from two different places and two different things. And then in time, a lot of times it all comes together. Like even with the person that I don't want to name, that I've done a lot with in the past, way back, that we mentioned before we got on the call. Although we've had scalar waves about this person and some of the content that came up zero, everything along, over and over and over, like zero, meaning it doesn't exist, which I've never had in anything what we've done. That show and his presentations sparked memories in me that had been dormant that I didn't even know could be real, but now I was like blatantly bleeding through and ignited me to a major bleed through on some stuff that happened from 73 to 76 and Montauk and some of the other stuff. So I was like, you know what, that was a catalyst for me, even though it wasn't, necessarily the greatest character and whatever, everything is being used for us. If we see it as everything is for us, and the universe supports us, then, we can stop seeing this is bad and this is good, but that everything is for me and this is good. And whatever it is, I'm just going to sit back and not be connected emotionally and triggered. And if I am, go, okay, why am I triggering? What does this have to do? What is my part in it? What do I need to do to recommit or heal or move? How do I move on with this person or this situation or myself? And, like asking those questions internally so we can get personally better to add to the collective and us come up higher as a new earth, like Aaron was talking about. So I know we gotta jump off here, but Craig, any final words? We'll just go around with final words.
Whoa, go. I got an echo. Hang on. Is it gone?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like I say, guys, I'm a massive fan of yours. I love everything that you do. You're becoming, in my mind, one of the most vital outlets for the truth and for disclosure. I love your integrity, and I'm deeply honoured that you agreed to do this with Sharnael and myself, and I would love to do it again sometime. And like I say, I just think that there's so much to talk about, certainly with global events going on and getting a higher perspective, but we can only go within. And if somebody messes up, I think we need to cover them with grace and restoration rather than condemnation and throwing them out. That's just my opinion. People are going to get it wrong. I've got it wrong. We've all got it wrong. Like you said before, Tyler, we're all been deceived. We're all believing lies, and it's navigating this illusion that we've called reality.
Just to different degrees, basically.
Sorry?
Just to different degrees. That's
precisely. And I just think we need to, as a community, have a lot of grace for each other, a lot of love. and we're all just need to head in that direction and liberate this flaming planet from this crap.
Yeah,
that's my final words.
Well said.
Right. I mean, the only constant is change, and we're all here to help each other and unite. The only way through this is strength in numbers, and fighting isn't the way, you know? Yeah, and thank you for having us on. We definitely need to do this again because
please, let's do it again.
We barely got to
next time.
we barely got to cover any of the topics, you know, that we were talking about. So
we need another hour at least.
Right, yeah.
Aaron, any final words? And I'll definitely get with Craig, and we'll get you guys some dates and have you on for February if you guys are cool with that.
Yeah. That'd be amazing. Awesome. Absolutely. No, just thank you so much for having us on. It's an honor for us too. So thank you. And everything we talked about was so spot on and perfect, and exactly what we need to be talking about and focusing on right now. The real journey is inward, and that's what you were saying. It's like the journey to truth is really a self journey of self discovery and sovereignty and empowerment. And then once the more and more you come into your true self and your true power, you start creating from that space. That's the only space you can consciously create from. And that's how we'll create the new earth, from that space as humanity awakens into that. Right. And it's an individual thing. It's not an external. We're not we're all going to follow this person or these truths. No, that's the old systems that are crumbling. The new is we each create from our authentic selves, and then we all come together from that place. So that's what we're moving into.
Right.
Bravo.
Well, I am super excited and just thankful too for everybody who joined us here today. And I hope that you guys will share this and get it out. You never know. Maybe some people are confused or feeling the same way we are. And this could be something that helps people get through this instead of, I know we mentioned earlier the dark night of the soul of, getting into it and then realizing, great, this is messed up too. And you keep, there's that like disappointment that happens. We're like, man, y'all too, come on. And, but if we can just realize that, we're just all figuring it out as we go. And, like I said, maybe there's other people feeling the same way. I've looked at the comments too. And yes, there is fighting. And then there's also like, you know what, I just think we should, move along and blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of people who are saying the same thing, that they're just tired of all of this and that they want to go within. And that's what I'm saying is like, just go within, love yourself. This is a fine tuning time for all of us to really, really sink in and think like, what do I believe? And still not even cement into that, because again, like even what I believe right now, I could like change that by 5 minutes from now and be like, now I have more information to make a better, observation in this situation. So judgment is a big deal too, of just being like very loose with some of the observations and not just jumping in on a judgment here and there and being like, this is the thing now, it's just like, okay, I see, and I'm watching and I'm observing, and I'm gonna, keep looking and observing and being okay and just holding everything very lightly, because things are changing so fast. But you guys are super cool, awesome. I just love your energy and definitely your integrity, and it just feels like we've known each other forever. I like that feeling whenever it's like it feels so familiar. But
we'll all meet in person one day.
Right.
Yeah. Really soon. We'll do it.
Totally.
We should have a UK conference. Get you all over here.
Yeah. I would love that. That would be amazing.
Let's do it. Well, y'all have a wonderful afternoon and weekend. And everybody watching, please do share this. Go to swiftfire.org. You can go find more information about these guys. I'm going to have all the bios up in the show. And I'm not sure if we'll be able to keep it on YouTube, because I have to go back and look to see if we said anything that would be weird and kick us off. But
I think we're good.
we'll for sure be on BitChute and Rumble as well, and you can find us there. And really looking forward to connecting with you guys in the future. Have a good day. Go to swiftfire.org. Love y'all. Talk soon.
Love you guys.
Soon.
Bye.
Good night. Good day.